Hey besties, it's Tori and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be going through every single book I have read so far this year. It's kind of like a mid-year wrap-up, except we're obviously towards the end-ish of July, and so I am just going to include every book I've read from the very beginning of January up until this current point in time. So we are going to have a little bit more than just a mid-year. But it's fine. I figured we could just go through every single book I have read this year and you guys could just kind of see what my reading taste is, what books I've enjoyed, what I haven't. I'm not going to be giving too many details. It's going to be a little more rapid fire, like this is the book, did I like it, did I not, what did I rate it, move on to the next, because we have like almost 50 books to get through. So I figured we would just kind of, you know, throw them out there. So with all that being said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my face. Check out all my socials down below, including my Goodreads and my Amazon book wish list. And with all that being said, let's get into my mid-year wrap up. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best to go in order of when I read them. I literally have stacks and stacks of books behind me, so I'm gonna do my very best to make this organized, but we're gonna just see how this goes together. So we're gonna struggle together. So to start off 2024, the very first book I read was Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this book 5 stars. I started off the year continuing my reading session of the entire Throne of Glass series, and I loved this book so much. This one is a lot of people's like least favorite. I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I highly recommend reading the Throne of Glass series, and it really started the year off with a bang. The next book I read was Ruthless Vows. This was definitely not my favorite. This is the second book in the Letters of Enchantment duology. The first book is Divine Rivals. I gave this 4 stars, but going back I'd probably bump it to more like a 3. It was good, but it just definitely wasn't my favorite, and I preferred the first book in the series way more. Then I started my reread of the ACOTAR series, so I reread ACOTAR. I loved it, gave it 5 stars again. I fully annotated the whole entire book, so there's so many tabs, and I highly recommend rereading your favorite series because honestly it was such a nice experience, and there's so many other things I picked up on, and I just love these characters so much, so it was really nice to get to jump back into these characters in this world. Then I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I had started this book way back in 2023, like fall time, and I just put it down and never finished it. And I finally had re-picked it up, and I gave this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I love her writing. Ashley Poston has become one of my like top favorite authors of the year, so I highly recommend this. The like literary aspect of it is beautiful, but it's more of like a woman's fiction mixed with a romance, and there's a magical element to it, so this was really good. I highly recommend. I picked up the next book in the Throne of Glass series, which is Queen of Shadows. I gave this once again 5 stars. This was probably one of my top favorites of the whole series. So much really starts to change in this book. Like the whole trajectory of the entire series takes a complete 360, and everything starts to fall into place, and you pick up on so many new characters, and it's just really good. This series has such a special place in my heart, and I can't recommend it enough. Here is where my addiction came in, and that is Magnolia Parks. I read this book in the very beginning of 2023, and then I ended up rereading it almost a year later, and I hated it the first time. Reread it, gave it 6 stars. This book, this series is everything to me. I literally love it with my whole entire soul. There are so many tabs in here. I cannot wait to reread this book soon because I miss these characters so much. So yes, I gave this 6 stars. Highly recommend. It's like Gossip Girl, toxic romance, bougie friends in London. Highly recommend. So good. It's literally everything to me. Then I was so attached, I ended up picking up the Daisy Hates book, which is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. Fully annotated and tabbed this one as well. This got 4.25 stars. The ending shook me. I was like, what the fuck? But I loved it so much. I, once again, love these characters. Daisy, Tristan, Julian. I'm a Julian girly through and through, so I highly recommend. Then I did a reread of Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book I read in fall of 2023, and then she announced that her second novel was going to be coming out this year, and so I wanted to give it a reread. Mine is actually signed by Lauren because I did get to meet her, and I am going to go meet her again in just like a week, which I'm so excited about. So mine is the indie paperback and it's signed, so this is a very special book to me. This is such an amazing YA fantasy book. This is a 5-star after rereading it. The first time I think I gave it like 4.5, and then when I reread it, it ended up bumping up to a 5. So if you're wanting a really cute, angsty little fantasy romantasy that has some like Hunger Games elements in it, I highly recommend. This was so good. Then I read a book on my Kindle, which was Behind the Net. I believe I was filming a booktube besties pick my reads video, and so I had a few friends reach out and they recommended a few books, and I ended up reading Behind the Net. This is a very spicy hockey romance, and I was not a huge fan. I do really enjoy spicy romances, but this one just did not do it for me, unfortunately. I only ended up giving it 3 stars. I don't know if I'm going to continue the series or not. I've heard the second one is much better, so maybe if one day I just need a cute little, you know, spicy romance, I'll read that, but it just wasn't for me personally. Then I ended up picking up Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is my first Abby Jimenez book I ever read, and wow, was I impressed. I gave this 4.25 stars. The anxiety representation here is amazing. I love these characters. I love that she does interconnected standalones and you see old characters pop up throughout her books. She did an amazing job. I highly recommend this. It was so good, and it's just a really cute, fluffy romance, and I just loved it so much. Then I continued the Magnolia Park series with Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. This one actually really hurt my soul. I think I have actually reading vlogs on most of this series, if not all of it. They're like in reading vlogs throughout the year. So if you want to see my reactions to reading this series, go back and check out my past reading vlogs. But once again, fully annotated this. This one you get a lot more explanation on characters and their actions and why the characters are at the place they are, and I just once again loved it. This one was a 4.5 star for me, so not quite a 5, but I still loved it. The ending absolutely shattered me. I was sobbing, so I love this book so much. I continued yet another series, and that was my reread of Akamov. This book is a 5-star, hands down, no questions asked. I think I could read it 10 times over and it would still be a 5-star. While I was doing my reread of this whole series, I was listening to the dramatized audiobooks on Audible, and it made the experience so much more thrilling because I could just listen and read along and really like picture the book in my brain. Like, it really helped my imagination, and it was just amazing. Once again, fully annotated this one. This is my second favorite in the series, and like I said, if you haven't read the ACOTAR series, what the fuck are you doing? You're behind, babe. You're behind. You need to read the series. It's so good. I promise it will not let you down. Then I read another fantasy, and that was One Dark Window. I don't remember this book very well because when I was reading this, I was having a mouth infection, so that sounds disgusting, but I could not really remember everything I was reading. But I did give it 4 stars, which I feel like is pretty good. This is a very different type of fantasy. It's very like gothic, eerie kind of fantasy. I remember enjoying it, and I do plan on reading the next one. Like I said, I gave this 4 stars, so it was good. Nothing life-changing, but I still recommend it, and I've heard that the second book is even better, so I'm very excited to continue the duology. Then I read Kiss the Sky by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I gave this one 4.5 stars. This is a part of the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. This is actually the first book in the Calloway Sisters series. This series is very just like character study-esque, where you just go with them through day to day. They're kind of Kardashian vibes, where it's just sisters and their drama and scandals and all that kind of stuff. It's not my favorite series of all time. Please don't kill me for saying that. I do love it, and I do think it's fun for just like a little random pick-me-up type of book, but it's definitely not a top 5 or 10 series for me personally. But I still recommend it. I still enjoyed it, and I'm excited to continue reading this series. Then I did one of the hardest things I have ever done as a reader, and that was the Throne of Glass tandem read. If you don't know what a tandem read is, it's when you read 2 books at the same time but you jump chapter to chapter. I thoroughly loved the tandem read. I think I finished both books in like 4 or 5 days, which is like crazy to me because I think in total this is like almost 1,400 pages or so between these 2 books, which I felt so brain dead after I was done reading this, but I enjoyed myself so much. Individually, I gave both book 5 stars, so I gave Empire of Storms 5 stars and Tower of Dawn 5 stars. A lot of people prefer Empire of Storms, but I still really did enjoy Tower of Dawn. I don't know if I have a favorite because I liked Tower of Dawn for different reasons than I liked Empire of Storms. This one was very plot heavy, but this one was very character heavy, so I enjoyed both. I do think personally both is necessary before you can read the last book. A lot of people are like, oh, I just feel like Tower of Dawn is unnecessary and it didn't need to be part of the series, but I completely disagree with that. I always felt like I was kind of getting a bit of a brain break while reading Tower of Dawn, but these 2 together was amazing. I highly recommend doing the tandem read. Don't let it intimidate you because it's really not that bad and you feel so accomplished once you finish the tandem read. But I, once again, loved this series. There was lots of tears, and I actually have a full spoiler reading vlog doing the tandem read, so if you've read it before or you're going to read it soon and you want to read it together, you can go check out my tandem reading vlog. After that, I took a bit of a fantasy break and I read Redeeming Six by Chloe Walsh. This is the 4th book in the Boys of Tommen series. One of my all-time favorite series ever. I gave this book 5 stars. Literally so good. There is a lot of trauma and emotional turmoil in this series, so for the love of everything, please check trigger warnings before you read this series because it is very traumatic and nobody should go into this blind. It is sold as YA romance and I think that is so much BS. I don't support that at all. This should not be read, in my personal opinion, by anyone under the age of at least 16 probably. So do with that information what you will, but love this series so much. I love Joey and Aoife. I was so excited to see their continuation of their series. So much happened in here that I was not expecting, but I loved this book nonetheless, and I highly recommend Boys of Tommen if you've never read it before. You will become addicted, I promise. Then I read one of my all-time favorite books ever, I think, and that was Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. This is the 4th book in the MPU universe, and oh wow, Julian Hates did things to me in this book. The quotes in here are actually just literally unmatched. I cannot stress enough how fucking much I love these characters, and this book just really did it for me. I don't know what it was, but it just locked me in. So much happens. I cannot wait to finally get the continuation of Daisy and Julian and Christian's story because we haven't gotten it yet, and this left off on a cliffhanger. The next book, you get a little bit of a glimpse of what sort of ish happened, but I need answers. I have so many questions and I need answers now. So this was easily like a 6, 8, 10, 20 star book for me. Loved it so much. The next book I read was one of my least favorite books in the entire fucking world. Butcher and Blackbird. Hated this. Actually hated it. Despised it. Was not a fan. I gave it 2.5 stars and I think that was way too generous. It's more of like a 1.5, 2-star book. I even did the audiobook, which everyone recommended, and I couldn't stand it. Even my best friend Callie, who is a whore for a dark romance, wasn't a fan of this book. I think she gave it 2.5 or 3 stars as well. So I would burn this book if I could. I'm so sorry if you love this book. You do you, babe. Props to you. I'm happy for you. But this made me feel like my skin was going to crawl off my body. Like, I didn't feel like it was romance at all. It was just nasty serial killer stuff and then rough sex. And that's just not me. Not me, girl. So I probably won't keep this book on my shelf for very long because I did not like it at all. I don't even want to touch it because it makes me feel icky. The next read was very bittersweet, and that was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I obviously ended up finishing the Throne of Glass series, and I'm so proud of myself for reading this whole series, but I'm also very sad that it's over and I will never see these characters again unless I reread their story. But wow, this series was so amazing, and I connected to it, and the character development and the growth and the storyline and the plot and the relationships all just came together and wrapped up. And Sarah J. Maas is honestly a genius, because the way she can make things from the very first book important in the very last book is insane to me. The series is over 5,000 pages in total, and there's literally Easter eggs from the first few hundred pages of the whole series to the very final page of this book. This is a 1,000-page book, the longest book I have ever read, and I loved every second. This was 6 stars for me. I laughed, I smiled, I had tears, I felt pain, anger, every emotion you can possibly think of, I felt while reading this, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I highly recommend. The next book I read was Hot House Flower by Kristen Becker Ritchie. This is the next book in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I gave this one 3.5-ish stars. It was good. The thing that really sucked is that Daisy and Reich is like one of my favorite couples from the entire series, but this book just didn't do it for me personally. I was a little disappointed in it. I definitely will continue the series, but I just didn't love this one. Just wasn't my absolute favorite, but I'm still gonna continue it and I still recommend. Then I did a reread of my all-time favorite book in the entire world, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I read this book in 2023 and I absolutely loved it, and then I did a reread of it just like a month or two ago, and wow, this book and I are like this. If you could pick 2 characters that I am, it's Harriet from Happy Place, and then also the main female MC of Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Those 2 characters are literally me. I fully annotated this book. Like, there's so many annotations in here. I actually have a reading vlog where I reread some of my favorite books ever, so go check that out if you want to see my reactions to rereading this book and just some of my favorite quotes and how I truly feel about it. But this book will forever hold a very special place in my heart, and I will probably reread this every single year until the end of time, whenever I stop being a reader, which I hope is never. But this is my book. This is me. I love Harriet and Wynne so much. The quotes, the storyline, the friendships, just everything about this is perfection in my eyes. I did yet another reread, and that was Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I gave this like 10 stars the first time. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this now. It might be more of like a 4.5 star for me. It's very just Wattpad-esque. This is a college football romance. There is a lot of drama. It's very character study-esque. I love the romance that we get in here. I love the characters, but I just feel like there was a lot lacking from this book, and I'm really excited because Megan Brandy's second book in the series comes out in October, so I'm really hoping that her writing has evolved and escalated, and that I feel like she hopefully will reach her true potential that I see for her. So I still enjoyed this book. The cover is stunning. I think that this one is fully out of print, unfortunately, now, at least this version of it, but it was still good. Still a good, just like easygoing Wattpad-esque college sports romance. I recommend. Then I read one of my all-time favorite books of the year, and that was Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh. This is the 5th and as of now final book in the series. She is going to continue at some point, but as of now the series is at a standstill. But this is Claire and Gibbsy's book, and this was probably one of the easiest 5 stars I have ever given a book. Within the first like legit 20 pages I knew that this was going to be 5 stars. The trauma bond in here is actually crazy, but I just love this series so much. You learn so much about the characters in this book, and I just highly recommend. Don't knock it till you try it, and I just think you have to read this series specifically to get to this book. I love all the characters, but this book is probably my favorite in the whole series. Loved it so much. 6-star read for me personally. Then I read Powerful by Lauren Roberts. This is the novella in the Powerless trilogy. So you have Powerless, Powerful, and then the next novel, and then there's going to be another novella, and so on and so forth. This book follows Adina and her story while Peyton is in the trials and at the castle and everything. This is like a super quick, easy little book. It's super good, super cute. I think I read this in like 2 or 3 hours. It's like less than 200 pages, but there's not a lot of words on the pages, so you get through this super fast. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend. I gave this one 4 stars. Even though I knew how it was gonna end, it still destroyed me inside. So with that being said, I still highly recommend. It's super good. I think that Lauren is an amazing author, especially for being only 21. She has done amazing things for herself, and I recommend this series. I really enjoy it. The next book I read was actually really hard for me to get through because it just felt, I don't know, I just felt a little different about it. But that is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. This is the final Magnolia Parks book. Like I said earlier, we are getting more Daisy Hates books, but this is the last one for Magnolia and BJ. This is my most annotated book probably of all time. I think I have over 200 annotations in here, just tabs. That's not even counting all the underlines and highlighting I did in here. I gave this 5 stars, obviously. It just went a little bit slow. This also deals with grief, so just keep that in mind while reading it. If you know, have some trigger warnings when it comes to like grief, then just be careful and cautious when going into this. There's also like eating disorders and stuff like that, so just make sure you check some trigger warnings just to prepare yourself mentally before going into this. But I obviously loved it. I loved Magnolia and BJ so much. There's a specific scene in here that I can't tell you what it's about, but I believe this is in a reading vlog, and this one scene, I go back to it every day. I think about it every single day. So love this so much. Highly recommend. I am so impatient and antsy for the series to continue, and I just literally need the next Daisy Hates book like right now, because I need to know what happens in their point of views, because this was a roller coaster of emotions. But it did have a happy ending, and the character development was absolutely unmatched. I don't know if I've ever seen character development the way that the characters in this series developed, so obviously I have a strong bond with them, and you couldn't make me hate any of these characters. They are my one true loves. Then I ended up reading Funny Story by Emily Henry. I read multiple new releases all at once. I was in a new release phase. Once again, I have, I think, 2 vlogs where I read a bunch of new releases. They were like all romances as well. So I ended up reading Funny Story by Emily Henry. This was her brand new novel this year, and I gave this 3.5 stars. Unfortunately, I didn't love this the way that a lot of other people have loved it. I definitely think I need to give it a reread. Like I said earlier, Happy Place is like my favorite book of all time, so I was a little disappointed in this, but I think I went into it with the wrong expectations, so I would definitely like to reread this and see if my opinion could change on it. So like I said, 3.5 stars. It was a cute, legit, funny story. I love how Emily Henry can bring in some like realistic traumas into here that you can really relate to, so I enjoyed that aspect a lot. But like I said, I feel like this is one that I definitely need to do a reread of. Then I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This was my first ever Elsie Silver book. She is the author of the Chestnut Springs series that everybody is so obsessed with, but I ended up reading her new series first, which is fine. You don't have to read the series in order. They're all kind of just like slightly connected a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal. I gave this 3.75 stars. I loved the first 60%. I actually ate the first 60% up, and then the last 40% I felt like the story just really changed, and the first 60% there was so much angst and just like banter between our characters, and it wasn't so romance heavy. And that last 40% I felt like all we were reading was smut, 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 smut. I was literally skimming the chapters because I didn't just want to read about them getting down and dirty, you know? But It was okay. Definitely not my favorite book. Definitely not my favorite writing style either, which makes me really sad because a lot of people love Elsie Silver so much, but maybe she's just not my particular cup of tea, or maybe it was just this specific book. I'm going to continue to try and find out and read more books by her, but this one just wasn't my personal preference. Then I read probably one of the best romance books of the entire year, and that was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Like I talked about earlier, if you literally take Emma from this book and mix her with Harriet from Happy Place, that is me. Just the people they are, their character, and their trauma literally is me. I love this book so much. You get pops up of the characters from past Abby Jimenez books that pop up in here, so it was really fun to see that. There's a full circle moment. There is something that happens at the end of this book that absolutely shocked me. I was not expecting. The third act breakup honestly kind of made sense. I literally ate this up. I think I read this in less than 24 hours. I loved it that much. So 4.75 stars for me. I cannot wait to reread this sometime next year. It's so good. I highly recommend, if you have not read this book before summer is over, please pick it up. It's so good, and I feel like anyone can relate to these characters. Then I read something a little bit different for me. I don't typically read like thrillers or mystery or crime, but I picked up The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the first book in the Natural series, and I gave this 4 stars. I literally finished this in one sitting. It only took me like 3 hours to get through. Not the whole series. I think the first book, or the first 2 books, is on Kindle Unlimited, but I really enjoyed this. It's just kind of like Criminal Minds, but make it YA. I was so shocked by the plot twist. It was insane. I did not see it coming, but I do really recommend this, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Then I had my first DNF of the year, and that was Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I tried to read this on Kindle Unlimited. I was feeling a bit slumpy, so I just thought that maybe like a little romantic-y, little YA moment might do the trick, and I'd heard some really good things about it, and I just could not get through it. I think I read like the first 150 pages or so. I think I was about 40% through, and I just got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is just not for me. I'm not enjoying myself. I don't know if I'll eventually try and reread this or not, but it just wasn't my cup of tea, unfortunately. Let me know down below if I need to try and give it another chance, but as of now, I don't plan on trying to reread it. Then I went back to the Natural series and read the second book, which is Killer Instinct. This one really hooked me. I gave this one, once again, 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. The banter, the friendships, just like all of it is so good. And like I said, Jennifer Lynn Barnes really knows how to throw you through the freaking ringer. Her plot twists are actually crazy. These are so quick and easy. They really just drown you in, and like I loved it. I had such a good time reading this series, and I went through them really, really fast. So after this, I ended up reading All In, which is the 3rd book in the Natural series. Once again, gave it 4 stars. Had a really fun time. I thought it was really good. It's just really fun and quick and just witty, and I really enjoyed it. Then I finished my ACOTAR reread by reading A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is ACOWAR. This is the technically 3rd book in the series, but it's actually the final book in the original trilogy. Sarah J. Maas originally did not plan on making this more than a trilogy, and so technically I finished the original trilogy by finishing this book. This is my favorite book in the series personally. I love all of the politics that go into this, and of course I love the romance because we just love the female and male main character couple duo. It's so good, eats every time. So once again, highly recommend. I did the audiobook with this one as well, and I had a really good time. I really enjoyed it, and I, like I said a million times, love these characters, love this world, love the found family, love it all. So good, eats every time. Then I once again went back to the Natural series and read the final full novel, which was Bad Blood. I gave this one 5 stars. I ate it up, had an amazing time, thought it was so good. I was sad that the series was coming to an end, but luckily there was a novella that I read after, which is called 12. This one I gave 4 stars again. super quick and easy. I literally read it, I think in like 2 hours maybe. So quick, so easy, loved it so much. The series is probably just about a 5-star series for me overall, even though only one of the books was a 5-star. All together as a collective, I love the series so much. It's so quick, so easy, so fun, so immersive, and like I said earlier, I believe the first one or maybe the first 2 are on Kindle Unlimited, and then I ended up just buying the rest of them on Kindle. I don't own the rest of the series. Maybe that will change. Not sure yet, but like I said, had a great time. I really do recommend. All right, this is where things got really good. I found one of my favorite series ever, and that was by starting the Kindred Curse Saga by Penn Cole. This is the first book. This is Spark of the Everflame. Oh wow is all I can say. Oh freaking wow. I gave this 4.5 stars. The concept of this series is so good, so crazy. Highly freaking recommend. The whole entire series is on Kindle Unlimited. The final book is not out yet, but I am just sitting here waiting for Miss Penn Cole to announce when that's finally gonna drop. She's had some publishing issues, unfortunately, so it was supposed to come out I think in June, and we're just kind of not really sure what's going on right now, but this is so good. I highly freaking recommend. Like I said, 4.5 stars. Loved it so much. Ate it up. Read this book in 2 days. So freaking good. You will not be disappointed, I promise. I carried on the Kindred Curse Saga by going into Glow of the Everflame. This is the second book in the series. This one got 5 stars from me. This, like, just ate it up. It's so good. I literally don't know how I did it, but I read this, I don't know, 600-page book in 2 days. I loved it so much. So hooked, so good. If you love romantasy, you have to read this. The angst and the banter, the magic system, just all of it is so good. I love it so much. The found family is so sweet and so good. I feel like this is a mix of like Throne of Glass and Powerless. Honestly, I don't know why, but every time I read this series, I get the same feelings that I got while reading Throne of Glass. They don't really seem too similar storyline wise, but just the way I felt while reading it gave me Throne of Glass vibes. I love these characters so much, and I cannot fucking wait for the rest of the series to come out. Like, I need the final book right now. Then I read just some quick little easy books on my Kindle. I was in a bit of a slump and I just wanted to like get through something easy. So I read the first 2 books in the Protector Guild series by Gray Halborn. So that is Academy of Protectors and Forging the Guild. Academy of Protectors I gave 4 stars. It was just a quick little easy read. I literally finished it in one day. I think it was like 150 pages maybe. Wasn't my favorite. It was okay. I really honestly still don't know what the concept of the book is and what like the end point is, but it was fine. It was just something quick and easy. The second book, which is Forging the Guild, I gave 3.5 stars. This one kind of put me off a little. I wasn't the biggest fan. I was quite confused on what was going on, and because of this book, I don't know if I'll continue the series or not. Maybe if I just need something super quick and easy, I'll keep going just whenever randomly, but it wasn't my personal favorite. Then I read Heat of the Everflame by Penn Cole, the 3rd book in the Kindred Curse Saga. Like I said, we're waiting on book 4. This got infinity stars from me, 6 stars, so good. The ending, let me tell you, freaking cliffhanger. Yeah, she left off on a major cliffhanger. So like I said, I'm gonna need that 4th book yesterday. Loved it. Highly recommend. Love our girl DM. Love everything about it. Mwah. Chef's kiss. If you take anything from me, please read this series. She's a very small indie author. I mean, super small. Like less than like, I think 15,000 followers maybe. So go support your girl. She's amazing. She kills it every time. Stunning. Perfect. If you take anything from this video about a series you've never heard of, read this series. It's so good. Okay guys, we only have a few books left. I let my bestie Callie pick my next read because I was just like, oh, let's just pick each other's read, because we both didn't know what we were in the mood for. We were both kind of feeling slumpy. So she picked Flawless by Elsie Silver. This is the Chestnut Springs series. Like I talked about earlier, I read this in literally like a day, basically one sitting, and I finished it. This whole series, I believe, is on Kindle Unlimited, which is really nice, but I gave this 3 stars. Once again, nothing to write home about. I know a lot of people love this series so much and they love Elsie Silver. Maybe it's just, once again, this book. I do plan on continuing the series and just see how I feel, because I do own them all, but as of right now, definitely not my favorite. This series, if you don't know, is very like cowboy, small town, ranchy romances, but this one just wasn't for me. 3 stars. I'm so sorry. Then I read one of my most anticipated reads of the year, which was Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second novel in the Powerless series. I ended up giving this 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is the Waterstones exclusive, by the way, if you're wondering how I have like a paperback. That's what this is. But I enjoyed it. The ending, no queen, no. If the 3rd book doesn't fix that, we're gonna have some issues. So yeah, this book literally read on release day in one sitting, bought it on my Kindle, and I finished it. Like, I literally did not stop. This was insane. It was very just character driven. It wasn't plot driven like at all. So it's very different compared to the first book, but Lauren said it's very vital to the series, that this was a much slower paced, character driven story, and that book 3 wraps everything up. And I think the 3rd book is called Fearless, and that is coming out in spring of 2025. So I'm just gonna be twiddling my thumbs until we finally get that next spring. Then I read Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This put me in a slump, easy as that. It really did. I gave it 4 stars because obviously I love these movies so much and I've always wanted to read the books. So I finally was like, okay, let's do it. I'm in the mood. I had such a hard time, and I think it's because I knew exactly what was going to happen because I've seen the movies. Obviously some things are different. We got a lot more like intel to things, and I don't know. I'm definitely going to try and continue the series. I'm very excited about the next book coming out next year, but it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite, but I am personally a PETA girl. Team PETA all day long. So I like their little romance. I think it's really cute. So then I read a novel, Love Story by Ashley Poston. This is her brand new release, and I fucking loved this. I gave it 4.75 stars. Like I stated earlier, Ashley Poston is one of my favorite new authors of the year. I thoroughly enjoy her writing. This is about a girl who loves books, and she somehow gets lost and ends up in her favorite romance series, Small Town. It's crazy. So good. The quotes in here I loved. I did a lot of like underlining because she's a book lover, and so she just understood how I feel about books, and I loved that so much. I posted a bunch of my favorite quotes from this book on my Instagram, and I still have more to post. So I really do recommend. I thought this was so good. I really loved it. The final book I have finished as of now in 2024 is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. I mostly just listened to the audiobook of this because I've been trying to get into audiobooks more to help me. I've had some issues being slumpy the last like month or so. So I was like, let's just try and do an audiobook. I actually really enjoyed the audiobook. I gave this 4 stars. I think if I would have like read it personally and been really invested, I could have given it more than 4 stars. But it was really nice to wrap up the first duology in this series. This is the Nightborn duet, but it's a part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So the next book in the series comes out actually on my birthday this year. My 21st birthday is November 19th, which is when the next book comes out. But it follows different characters in a different romance and a different storyline slightly. I think we're going to get hints of these characters in those books, but it's not gonna be solely focused on the same characters, if that makes sense. But I really did like it, and I really enjoy Carissa Broadwin's writing. I think she does a really good job. There was quite a bit of smut towards, I feel like, the endish of this book, but I liked how the characters came together. I liked the plot. I really enjoyed it. So I recommend this series, and if you want to get it finished and read before the new one comes out in November, I would start on it now, because these books are very thick and I really enjoyed it. So I recommend. They are all on Kindle Unlimited as well, if you're not wanting to pick up the paperbacks. Alright guys, that was the 46 books I have read so far in 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed sitting down and chit-chatting about every book I've read so far this year. I love mid-year wrap-ups. I can't wait to do my end-of-year wrap-up. I think that's going to be so much fun. And yeah, I just love talking about all my favorite books with you guys. It makes me feel happy and whole inside. So with all that being said, I hope you're having an amazing, wonderful day wherever you are. Let's leave a hourglass emoji in the comments down below if you made it to the end of the video, just because, you know, we're halfway through the year. Time is ticking. We're getting down to December really quick. It's kind of crazy how fast the year is going. So yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my face, and check out all my socials down below, including my Goodreads and my Amazon book wish list. I love you all to the moon and Saturn, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, besties!